You're saying you didn't move, you hadn't moved, what's going on?
No, sir. What had happened, me and the lady that I was living with had an application because of her son. I had informed her that night that I had to move due to the fact I was on parole, and I called the Ouachita Parish Sheriff's Department and explained to the deputies what was going on. Her son had got released from prison or jail 1, and he came there. And I cannot be around another person that's on parole or drugs. And that's why I left. The deputy let me get some of my things that night, and I left. And I told her until she found him a place, I couldn't be there around him.
So did you tell your parole officer? Did you reach out to your parole officer?
I tried, sir. I tried to call her and I didn't get her answer. Then I called the next day, and then on the day I got my ID and stuff, I went to pay my fees. In the place that I went to pay for my restoration, sex offender restoration, it was closed due to the coronavirus. They said I had to set up an appointment, and I went and did that and got my ID that day, the same exact day.
So, but you didn't pay any fees. You still didn't get with the office to pay any fees?
No, sir, I didn't. I got arrested on January the 4th. My fees was due on January the 1st.
Because you weren't at the residence so January, so you moved in December, but in January the 4th, you got arrested because you weren't where you're supposed to be.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Yes, sir, that is correct.
Were you not aware of where you were moving, that this girlfriend or whoever would have, has somebody that's involved in criminal activity? I mean, it's pretty clear on, the papers that you sign, you won't be engaged in criminal activity, you won't be around, and you'll maintain the address that you register as a sex offender. I mean, there's a lot going on when you're a sex offender.
Yes, sir, you're correct. And I have a sworn affidavit signed by the lady, Miss Virginia Welch. The parole officer didn't know that she had did this and told me to please bring it and show it to y'all. Where she stated that this is what can you see this that I'm holding up?
I'm not sure about that. I mean, you have to get that sent through DOC and have that processed. I can't really make a determination over the computer here.
Oh, would you like the guard to read it to you?
No, I mean, you can y'all can have that paperwork sent to DOC, have it emailed or faxed directly to the DOC if you need some paperwork that needs to be here.
Yes, sir. You know how to do that? Yes, sir. I need him to, I need to send that to him, please. But I had tried to notify my parole officer, and I understand that like you said, that there's a lot goes on with sex offenders and the requirements, and I'm willing to do all that, sir. I just didn't have the proper time in trying to move from there and get things straightened out before they arrested me on this bogus warrant, and it was dismissed. It was thrown out of court because it wasn't even me that stole no boat.
Okay. All right, Miss Jackson would like to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
You're on mute, Miss Jackson.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Jackson.
How you doing this morning, Ms. Brantley?
I'm fine.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple of questions. When were you released on parole?
I was released in if you give me 1 minute, it hasn't been long, like
Okay, give me a general idea.
Probably a month and a half before I was arrested.
Okay.
Back around, I think, November.
All right. All right. And I see that you were detained on January the 4th, so that probably is about a couple of months. When you were released, was your residence plan with this lady that you moved in with?
Yes, ma'am. It
And
was.
that plan had been approved by parole?
Yes, ma'am.
And at the time that you moved in, was her son there?
No, ma'am, he wasn't. And right after I moved in, he got released. And I tried to explain my
Okay,
parole.
so he got released from jail and came home and lived with his mom. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
And you recognize that you shouldn't be in that same household. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's the God's honest truth.
All right. What plan did you have to go someplace else? Where did you go when you left that lady's house?
To my aunt's house, which is where I had took the re-entry program.
Okay, just hold on, just answer one question at a time.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you left the residence that you signed up for after your release, you went to your aunt's house.
Yes, ma'am.
About when was that, Mr. Brantley?
That was the same night that I left from Virginia Welch's residence, 51 Marydale Drive.
Was that, Mr. Brantley?
That was in November, I think, November the 24th or somewhere around there.
Okay, but you didn't get detained until January the 4th.
I mean, December the 24th or the 22nd, somewhere around there.
Okay. And so why did you call the sheriff's office?
Due to the fact when I explained to her, tried to explain to her that I couldn't be around another person that's on parole or being released as in drug activity. She didn't want to give me my stuff out of the house, none of my stuff or nothing. I called Washita Parish Sheriff's Office and they came out and got my truck keys from her son, which had took them, and made her give me my clothes and stuff, some of my clothes and stuff. And I explained to them that same night, Washita Parish Sheriff's Department, that I was a sex offender and I was had got out of jail for that address and moved in with her. And I wasn't supposed to be around another criminal like that.
All right. So after you moved in with your aunt, did you call the probation officer and let that person, a parole officer, and let that person know what was going on with you?
No, ma'am, I didn't. I did try, and this number that she had gave me, or I wrote it down wrong, and I got it with me, and she told me that that's the time I had called her one time. She was in court. She told me, "Don't keep bothering me. I'll call you back." She never returned my call.
So you're saying you attempted to notify her of your change of circumstances?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
All right. Had you done your sex offender registration?
Yes, ma'am, I did. As soon as I got out, I went straight up there, I think the next day, and got the paperwork and filled them out. And she gave me 30 days, I think it was, to pay the fees. And I went up there, and that's when I seen the two deputies. And they told me that I had to go online due to the coronavirus and all that. And I had went up there to pay it, Ms. Jackson.
Okay, but you never got around to doing any of that because you got detained. Okay, now tell me how you got arrested on January 4th. I'm not clear about how you got arrested or why you got arrested.
Okay, they had looking for a Olin Wayne Brantley that is kin to me, and for fraudulent checks and stuff like that. But I was at my aunt's house, and somebody had notified the Shane Barker here in the Union Parish Police Department that he was staying at my aunt's house, which he wasn't. When he came out to speak with my aunt about him, he seen me and he said, "Hey, ain't you Roy Brantley?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "Well, I have a warrant for your arrest for a stolen boat." I said, "I haven't stolen no boat." And he said, "Well, look, you under arrest. I have a warrant for your arrest." Well, he arrested me and brought me in. Then to come to find out, Wayne Brantley had used my name That's the way I got arrested. He told the two old people that he act like that you know that he was me, that I had got the vote. And
Right.
that's the way they took it because of my name and my prior conviction.
And did those charges against you get dismissed?
Yes, ma'am, they did. The lady testified and the man that it was not me.
Okay. And so you've not been involved in any other criminal activity since you've been released?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. None.
And you left that residence that you registered at because you felt like you shouldn't be around convicted felons?
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
All right. And you said you made an effort to notify the parole officer of your change of circumstances.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Brantley. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you.
All right, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Yes, sir, I would. I would like to be able to get up out of here and show an effort that I'm going to change, that I'm going to be a better person, and I'm going to pay my fees as soon as I get released. My aunt and my uncle said if I could get out, they would help me pay my fees up and get started over, get a job and go to work.
All right, it's been prepared to vote. Mr. Brantley, I appreciate what you're saying. I appreciate the things that you said here today. I mean, it's concerning still that, you know, with your significant past and charges, you know, it's hard for you to get in touch with parole. You can get in touch with the police and you can get in touch with this one and you can get in touch with that one, but you can't get in touch with the parole officer who, you know, maintains all the information and your supervision and all your sex offender payments and all those. So, I mean, that's concerning to me. So for that reason, I'm going to vote to revoke you today because of finding guilty of obviously moving to another residence without getting your parole officer. You have to, this is a serious, sex offender is serious. You have got to be above and beyond even any normal offender to be able to stay on top of that. So I find, I vote to revoke. Ms. Jackson?
Ms. Brantley, I think you were trying to do the right thing. I do.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know how hard it is for a sex offender to find a place that you're even allowed to live at. I think you recognize that that wasn't an environment that you needed to be in. You took steps to get yourself out of that environment. And I'm not going to dispute whether or not you attempted to contact probation and parole because we don't know whether, you know, you did or not. But I don't think that there's any proof in my mind that you willfully violated the conditions of your release. So my vote today is to do not revoke.
All right, Mr. Wise?
Well, first of all, Mr. Brantley, the next day or whenever you left, the next day, you should have been somewhere getting a hold of somebody with probation and parole. You can't call probation and parole there. You get a hold of somebody with probation and parole because you are a sex offender. You're not just a regular member. You have to be reported and they got to know where you are at all times with the serious charges that you have. At this time, I'm going to vote to revoke, fail to comply with the conditions set by probation and parole. Thank you.
So you have 2 votes to revoke, 1 do not revoke. Today, your parole's been revoked. Good luck.
Yes, sir.
Well. This might be one of the few times that I want to give Jim Wise a high five. Look at that. Yeah, you know, certain people have that look. When you see them come up for parole, it's like, I think I know what you're in for. And I was not wrong. And frankly, I think that that's makes him a safer offender. He kind of just has that look, while there are others that don't have the look. And those are, in my opinion, the most dangerous. I don't know what's more disturbing. Thank you, Richard, for sharing this. Of course, that it seems here that he has an offense of indecent behavior with a juvenile in 2001, and he was released in 2004. So he got a 3-year sentence, only to reoffend again in 2003 for forcible sexual assault and aggravated oral sexual battery. Now, is that a surprise that he reoffended? Oh, I mean, I'm sure for the low risk score PhDs, it's a huge surprise, but no one else with common sense. But also, the dates don't add up because it says he was released in 2004 and he has a conviction in 2003. So it is possible that he was convicted in prison for a different offense, but then why would he get out? I don't know if the records are wrong or if the system is just that messed up. But I mean, hey, only 3 years for indecent behavior with a juvenile. Obviously, it's like just a kid. Who cares? Imagine if he had like sold some pot, man. I mean, whew. But you look at the statutes and they've updated the statutes. They're getting more strict. So this is as of January 1st, 2023. So now whoever commits the crime of second-degree sexual assault shall be imprisoned of hard labor no less than 5 years. So, I mean, again, if you force yourself on someone, a judge still has the right to say 5 years. You can only get 5 years. And how that makes sense, it makes no sense to anyone, again, with common sense. I mean, people talk about feeling violated when their home is robbed, when they're not there, when someone goes through their phone and you don't know it, when someone takes stuff from your business, steals from you, you feel violated. Imagine taking from your body. And to have in the legislation that you can actually give 5 years for that. This is how they define it. But they say the maximum sentence is 40 years. Just take that for what you will. But the idea that he I don't know how much time, I guess, he got for his second offenses and how much time he's backing. And I don't have that information on this one. So it is what it is. And that's, I guess, Louisiana for you. So, but if we do see him again at a parole hearing or something, we'll make sure to play it. This hearing took place in 2021. So he might be coming up for parole sometime soon. Or, sometimes they don't serve that much time. They get, I don't really, it seems quite, but anyways, our system's broken. I think that's pretty clear. And with that, I'll let you go.
Classified as a second felony offender. Offenses: driving while intoxicated, fourth offense. Sentencing date: January 21st, 2020. Sentenced to a total of 10 years. Parole date is March 11, 2022. Good time, March 10th, 2023. Full term is September 11, 2029. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Wise.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I see, Marcus, you, as I go back over your arrest record here in 95 indecent exposure, was that because you was drinking back then in 1995?
Yes.
As I look down through your simple battery, domestic violence, was all of this because of alcohol?
Yes.
Aggravated battery with a dangerous weapon, and they reduced it to simple battery. Domestic abuse battery, third DWI, operating a vehicle. I mean, be honest with us. the board today, and I want you to tell us, I know Ms. Pearl, she's been through probation and parole for over 30-something years in law enforcement. Mr. Maribella's been a judge for a long time. And I see here where you said operating a vehicle. How many DWIs have you really had? They stopped you when you was driving, drinking?
A total of 7, I think, or 6, I believe, 6 or 7.
So they got you charged as a 4th DWI right now. But as I look on here, I see several operating a motor vehicle. And I'm going to tell you, these scare me more than anything, the DWIs, because that's a loaded bullet headed down that road that can kill a lot of people.
Yes.
The thing is, the programs you've taken, what programs have you taken?
Over the years, I took them classes, Dr. Young, and completed them. And
What programs are you taking now?
I went through a in and out dad court, just completed it, but
I'm talking about substance abuse because I don't see any credits here, CTRP credits, where you've been working on anything for alcohol and drugs. I'm not saying you ain't a good dad, but I'm saying you have a drinking problem, a substance abuse problem, and that problem's got to be fixed before you get out on the road with my vote. I can tell you that right straight up front.
yes.
So tell me, is someone there with the staff, do y'all have anything to do with, do y'all have any substance abuse classes he can take?
Substance abuse classes, I'll have to check on that. Let me find out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
They do have some substance abuse classes.
Yes, we do. Okay, that's all I need to know.
Why hadn't you been taking some of them?
I've been trying to get into the classes, and this is the first class they've given me, and I've been trying to get in them. It's just the first class they've given me, sir.
Okay, I understand that. And you've been in work release for how long? You've been in work release? Over almost a year and a half.
Yes, sir.
So you've been in work release, but you ain't been in no substance abuse classes. I'm not gonna tell you, you're gonna take some substance abuse classes. You get out on my vote. I just want you to know that, and I want to see you get some substance abuse classes before you're released. That's me. Now,
Yeah.
somebody else may be different, but I think you have to have some substance abuse classes. When was your last disciplinary write-up?
I ain't had enough.
You ain't had any. You're set up as a moderate risk evaluation. At this time, I don't have any other questions. Is anything you want to say to the board before we vote?
When I first got arrested on the charge, I did 4 months and got out on the ankle monitor for almost a year, and didn't get no trouble. Then went and got sentenced.
I want to ask you something.
Yes,
When you had the ankle monitor on, I want you to be honest with me. Was you
Yes.
still drinking a little bit?
no, sir, none. No, I give up.
Well, that's great.
When I caught that last charge, I ain't drank none, and ain't had no cravings or no substance abuse problems afterward. My father, right when I got sentenced on the deal, my father passed away, which he's been sick for a while, and when he passed away, right when I got in, I mean, ever since I got arrested and the whole time I was on ankle monitor, I ain't had no cravings for no alcohol, no substance abuse, nothing. And I've been doing fine,
Where do you live at, Mr. Young?
West Monroe.
West Monroe. I seen it said the city. Is that Swartz?
No, sir. It's site toward Calhoun.
Okay, Calhoun. I know where that is. All right. Well, thank you very much. You have anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
Yes. I know I'm gonna continue, go to church when I get out. I have a strong, that's gonna help me. Not, falling back off and go to hit the bottle. But, I just,
That's right. I see you go to one of those Pentecostal churches, get one of them good old prayer warriors there, put their hand on your head. Y'all keep
Sorry.
praying and get through this. Today, I'm going to be voting. My vote is today, vote to deny. I think you need more programs. You need substance abuse programs, strong substance abuse programs. You're moderate risk. You've had 4 DWIs I see on paper. There's been any continuous things. I want to make sure you got some good substance abuse before I release. Thank you. Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Young, I, like Mr. Wise, am very, very concerned about your criminal history, your drinking, and your driving. You've had a number of DWIs, which tell me you've probably been behind the wheel a lot more times than that, having drank. The good news is you haven't killed anyone yet, but that's just a matter of time if you continue down the path you're going. And the only way you're going to be able to stop that is if you take good, significant programs, learn tools, and be vigilant every day. Go to AA meetings, go to regular meetings all the time for the rest of your life. You may not have any cravings right now. You're in prison. You may not have any cravings when you had that ankle bracelet on, but sometimes life throws things in our way that we kind of forget about things and we go back to our old habits. And when you go back to your old habits of drinking and you get in that car, as Mr. Wise pointed out, you're a loaded bullet. And it's no telling where that bullet's going to land. So I encourage you to continue doing what you're doing, but you need some strong substance abuse. You need to learn about the 12 steps. You need to practice those 12 steps. You need to live those 12 steps for the rest of your life. My vote today is to deny, but encouraging you to get on track to be able to get the tools to stay clean and sober. Good luck to you, sir.
yes.
Mr. Young, your brother, probation parole reached out to your brother, and your brother made the statement that I hope he's learned his lesson. That's what your brother told probation and parole. And that's my hope for you too, that you have learned your lesson. But today I concur with my colleagues. My vote is to deny for the reasons I already stated on the record. I just encourage you to just continue like you're going and right back, reapply when you're eligible for a rehearing.
Today, the vote was to deny. I'm going to tell you, I would love to vote for you, but I want to see you get some more programs. And we all rather see you out and see you in. But we don't want to be going down the road and meet you head on with about 12 of them Bud Lights down you and zero in on us. So thank you very much.
Isn't that funny? It's like the second time I've seen Jim Wise actually show a sense of humor. We all want to see you out, but we don't want to be going down that road with head on with 12 Bud Lights in you. Okay, man. I just hate his interview style. It's like he didn't even give him a chance. It was like he was feeding him the answers. He's like, well, I see you got a lot of charges. You got a lot of charges. You got the simple battery. You got the TV. You got the third. Let me tell you what I'm thinking. And then, he does like that snort thing, which every time makes me, ugh. And, you got the indecent exposure. That's because you were drinking too, right? And he's like, yes. It was like he was feeding him these softballs, like, and this happened because you were drinking too. He's like, yeah, okay, yeah. Like, why don't you ask him why it happened? I mean, I'm given the benefit of the doubt and say the indecent exposure was, if this guy is just such a drunk that maybe he was urinating in public, you can get that. But who knows? Because Jim Wise never asked. He did ask how many DUIs did he really get. he said 6 or 7, and he gets the 1/4 offense. I was not convinced at all, man. He's like, yeah, I don't want to drink at all. I don't drink at all. I'm done with it. It's like, okay, sure. Yeah. But you see this sentence, he gets 10 years and he took a plea deal. Now he's still locked up because his parole date, yeah, we'll probably see him again sometime soon. And when we do, we have a playlist. It's called Return of. So you can check out that playlist. And we have where people come back for multiple times. But I bet you will see him sometimes too, because he's got his full term date in, what is it, 2029? So he's got some time left on him. I don't have any documentation to share on this, probably because he took a plea deal. But let's see if we have another one.
78, classified as a 4th felony offender. Offenses: driving while intoxicated, 4th offense; operating vehicle while intoxicated, 4th offense, count 1; simple escape, count 2. Sentencing dates are September 27, 2007, revoked on October 26, 2016, and February 1st, 2017. First docket sentence, 20 years DOC, reduced to 10 years DOC on December 6, 2009. The count 2, 1 year DOC, and the last docket, 15 years DOC. Parole date, February 17, 2022. Good time, October 23rd, 2022. Full term, November 10th, 2036. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Marabella.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mintel, my name is Tony Marabella. Your case was assigned to me, so I'm gonna start out asking you a few questions, okay? Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mintel, I show that you're 42 years old. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been in prison this particular time?
Just under 4 years, 5 years. October makes 5 years.
All right. Tell me a little bit about your educational background.
I earned a GED in 2008. I also got a associate's degree in 2012. I have completed VOTEC in 2018, and I was a registered tutor for VOTEC Automotive.
What kind of work have you done when you're outside?
Electrician.
And is that by trade? How long were you an electrician? How many years
Yes,
did you
yes,
do that?
sir. Yes, sir. All my life since I was 17, I've done electrical work, construction.
Okay. How many years have you actually spent in prison? This is your second stint for a 4th offense DWI. How long did you serve the first time?
Just about 5 years. So this would be almost 10 in total.
Tell me about your drinking. When did you start drinking?
I really became an alcoholic when I was probably 19, and it's pretty much been a problem since then.
Now you've had, by my count, you've been arrested 7 times for DWI. You have 6 DWI convictions. I assume that along the way, judges have required that you get substance abuse evaluation and treatment, et cetera. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I did go to treatment, and
What kind of treatment have you gone to?
I went to a 28-day program in 2005, just before Katrina hit.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it, sir.
That's the only program you've ever gone to on the outside?
Yes, sir. I have been required to go to meetings and whatnot, but honestly, it was never for myself. In the past, I thought I could handle everything on my own, and I guess my pride got in the way. And sitting here now, I can honestly say that
I'm powerless over my addiction, and until I've turned it over to God, that I can't do it on my own.
Well, let me ask you, when you were in prison the first time on your fourth offense DWI, did you take any programs while you were in prison?
No, sir.
No substance abuse programs at all while you were in prison?
No, sir. I never got involved in anything before this incarceration.
Why
here.
not?
I believe that pride in my life, I just felt like I could just change one little thing and that would solve all my problems.
What was the little thing you thought you could change?
I thought before that I could just continue drinking and not drive, or I could just remove some people out of my lives and that would fix everything.
Mr. Mintel, the two DWI fourth offenses that you ended up going to prison, there were wrecks, crashes.
Yes,
The
sir.
good news is no one was seriously injured.
Yes, sir.
All of your other DWIs, did they involve wrecks as well?
No, sir.
Any of them?
Probably 4 of them were for speeding.
Now tell me what programs you've taken while you've been in prison this time.
I've been religiously involved in the chapel as well as recovery. I took Celebrate Recovery in 2018 and I was asked to facilitate it and I've been facilitating it since. I've also taken Malachi Dads and I've also have facilitated that at Rayburn.
Have you been in any long-term treatment facility while you've been in prison? Have you been to Steve Hoyle? Have you been to Blue Walters? Have you been to any extensive substance abuse program while you've been in prison this last 4 years?
No, sir. Celebrate Recovery has been pretty much the best thing that I could have done.
So tell me what your plan is to be let's back up a little bit. Why were you drinking before? Can you tell me what, obviously you're a bright man, am I correct? I mean, you're pretty intelligent. You've been an electrician. You've got good support. You're not, you're not what we would call a typical criminal. You're a law-abiding citizen who is an alcoholic who gets behind the wheel and commits DWIs. So tell me why you continued to drink. I mean, I assume you realized that when you get behind the wheel and you drink and you get caught, you go to prison. So why did you continue to drink after you got out of the first fourth offense DWI 5 years ago?
I believe that I felt like I could handle drinking and not driving. I believe that, I thought that I would be safe, and I just continued to put myself in situations that were unsafe. And I should have gave up drinking a long time ago. I mean, the moment it started causing problems. But for some reason, I guess my pride I felt like I could handle it.
So tell me what your plan is now that you have taken Celebrate Recovery and you've come to some intellectual realizations about your drinking. Tell me what your plan is now that makes me feel comfortable to let you out and potentially put you in a car. And if it happens again 7 times, the 8th time could be a death, and that could be on me. So tell me why I should take a chance now, and what's changed, and what's the plan? What is your plan for the future to make sure that doesn't happen again?
Yes, sir. at this point in my life, I just feel like I don't have any more room in it for any more regrets. My plan is to just continue to stay plugged in to my recovery through groups and fellowship. And that's the only thing I know on my own. None of that's possible. Recovery is not possible on my own. So my plan is just to continue staying plugged in with people that support me and
Tell me
are
what that looks
positive.
like. Tell me what that looks like. Let's assume that you get the votes today to get out, and in 2-3 months, you're out on the streets. What's your plan? What you gonna do the first day?
Absolutely, it would definitely be meetings. I'm sure that I have a home with Celebrate Recovery with Mr. Shane, but absolutely, it's definitely going to be to put myself in a position to be successful, and that's only through recovery.
Now, have drugs been an issue with you in the past?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what kind of drugs?
Pretty much anything. It hadn't
Well,
just.
tell me what drugs you've used in the past.
Most recently would be heroin.
And when was that?
Probably from 2013 to 2015,
And when did you come to prison?
2016.
So after you got out on your 4th offense DWI, the first time you were back to using heroin again?
I wasn't really going back to it, but yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, you didn't, I accept the fact that you probably didn't want to go back to it, but you did.
Yes, sir.
So what's your plan with the drugs?
It's the same thing. I just plan on being a part of recovery. Even just giving back with facilitating Celebrate Recovery is definitely a part of that also.
How did you get started on drugs? I understand the drinking, but how did you get started on the heroin?
I'm not trying to make an excuse, but I continue to put myself in a position around people that they use. I've always worked on construction sites. It's not a healthy place for me.
Where are you going to be working if you get out?
As a mechanic.
Where at?
Christian Brothers in Mandeville.
You know, Louisiana, Mandeville is no exception. Lots of drinking. It's the culture. Everybody drinks. My dad ran a service station for 30 years. I worked there all my life. And I know every Saturday night after we closed up, somebody went and got a 6-pack of beer and we all had a beer or two. What's going to happen when that happens with you at the automotive place?
I'm going to run straight to a meeting.
Tell me about your family life. What kind of support are you going to have outside your meetings?
Well, my mom and all my family, my immediate family, they all fully support me financially in every manner. Other than myself and my younger brother, who's also incarcerated, really, we're the only addicts in the family. So I have them to turn to. My wife is not an addict. I have 2 little girls.
How old are your daughters?
8 and 10.
Okay. Of course, you had them before you went to prison, right?
Yes, sir.
So you've had a wife and children and a mom and the support system. You had that before.
Yes, sir.
Now, I understand you've been in prison, and I understand that, you know, you'd really like to get out. And I understand that you've taken some programs in there, but you're very structured right now. You're under a situation where, and I'm sure there's alcohol in there, there are drugs in there. You can do a lot of things, and you're not doing them. And that's commendable, very commendable. And it sounds like you're moving on the right track. But what happens when you get out? What happens when things go south? What happens when maybe work isn't as good as it was supposed to be? What happens when some of your old partners come back in your life? What happens when all of those things happen? you know, you've been down this road before. This isn't your first time. You know, fourth offense DWI, I mean, you're in prison for a long time. Tell me why I should take a chance on you. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and we hear that a lot, believe me. And I want to believe you, and I believe you believe that as you sit there today. But I'm very concerned about what's happened to you in the past, what significant drugs you've taken, how you continue to drink. I mean, you're at a 0.98, which is above the limit. I don't know, were you doing drugs also at the time?
No, sir, I was on medication that was prescribed by a psychiatrist. Other than that, no, sir, I wasn't on any.
What were you going to a psychiatrist for?
Anxiety.
Have you had any mental health evaluation while you've been in prison?
Yes, sir.
And what's the diagnosis, or are you on medication currently?
No, sir.
How long had you been on medication when you were out?
Nearly 4 years.
Were you regularly going to your psychiatrist, or was it just a go get medicine kind of thing?
Yes, sir, I was. Therapy.
You were in therapy?
Yes, sir.
Were you in therapy for your alcoholism as well?
No, sir.
You were not?
No, sir.
Did that ever come up?
Yes, sir, that my psychiatrist is well aware of my addictions in the past.
Warden Bickham, can you tell us anything about Mr. Mintel?
Yes, sir. How you doing? Good morning.
I'm doing
everybody.
very well, thank you.
Good. I tell you, Harris, I know him fairly well, to tell you the truth. I found him at Rayburn when I was the warden at Rayburn, and I brought him back with me to DCI. A handful of trustees over there brought back to DCI when I came. He is one of them. I'll tell you his write-up history after 5 years. I think he's had one low court write-up, so he has no high court write-up. He is a trustee. He's a pride member. He's trustworthy. You know, he works on a carpenter crew. I put him on a carpenter crew here, and he has worked diligently on that crew around. I'm around him a decent amount of time. Tell you his skills. He's an electrician, a mechanic, a carpenter. He has so many different skills. It's almost amazing on that part. He's taken the classes he's taken since he's been here, just going through the list, and he and I talk about things, and you know, his GED, the pre-release, the VOTEC programs, all the different classes and the facilitating he's done. I understand what he goes on the street is not my, what I can deal with, but in here, I don't think we could ask, he could do anything more within the facility, than what he's done. So as far as within the prison system, he's done everything he possibly could.
Great. Thank you, Warden. I appreciate it. Let me see. Let me check I don't see any questions. Any other questions from any of the other members? Ms. Jackson.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mintel. How are you doing this morning?
Very nervous.
I can understand that. Let me start by commending you for the work that you've done, commending you for reaching the point of recognizing that you are an alcoholic. I don't know why it took you so long, given that you had a previous fourth offense DWI where you went to prison for it. You said you served almost 5 years. And during that time, you didn't do anything to try to address what your issues were. And you mentioned pride. Explain that to me.
I believe that I was too hard-headed to ever ask for help, that I never felt like like I needed any help from anybody other than myself. And looking back now, it was stupidity. I've never been involved in anything before this incarceration. And that's the only thing that's actually turned my life around, changed my heart.
Okay. Well, Judge Marabella said something. I'm gonna take a little bit of exception with it. And when he said that you weren't, a criminal or typical criminal, anybody who's had 2 separate convictions of 4th offense DWI is a criminal. And the only reason I bring that up is that sometimes, I was a judge also for 28 years. And sometimes when people don't see themselves the way they really are, then they're not susceptible to change. I've had people who, they didn't want to go to meetings, or they didn't because they thought they were better than the people around them in the meetings because they didn't see themselves the same way, as those other people. And so I'm wondering, is that part of what was going on with you, that you didn't see yourself in the same light as the other people that you were incarcerated with?
Yes, ma'am, to an extent. I just felt like I had control over my addiction. And it was absolutely the opposite.
You mentioned Celebrate Recovery being important to you. What was it about that particular program that you thought was so helpful or beneficial for you?
Well, early in this incarceration, I gave my heart to God, and with those steps and the way that works is it makes me understand that there's nothing that I can do on my own. And it's freeing to know that I don't have to bear it on my shoulders.
Have you ever figured out why alcohol and drug use have been so important to you? I mean, when you consider everything that it costs you,
Right.
Lots of money, a previous stint of incarceration, sure, some problems within your household or your family, and yet you continue to drink and also to use drugs. Have you figured out why alcohol was so important to you?
I'm not sure if I felt in my mind that it was important to me, other than I like that it kind of removed the anxiety or the feeling of being uncomfortable.
Okay.
I don't really know.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I don't really know why I continued. I wish I had an answer for that. I just know that the devastation that it's caused, and I can't understand why it took me so long to see that.
Okay. Well, if you don't understand what was driving you to drink, then do you really think you are equipped to avoid whatever those triggers were, those feelings, that sense of anxiety? How are you gonna? I mean, those things are gonna still be there.
Yes.
So how do you plan to? Again, I'm not suggesting by any means that prison is a pleasant place to be, but it is a structured environment.
Yes,
It is a small world, but the world outside is limitless, and you have opportunities to make choices and decisions that you don't have while you're incarcerated. And I want you to understand that while the focus is on you, one of my concerns is, you can drink yourself to death if that's what you choose. You can, get cirrhosis, you can get liver cancer, you can get all of the illnesses related to alcohol abuse if that's what you would like to do. But unfortunately, drinking and driving isn't about you. It's about that poor person on the street who's trying to come home or go to work, or, and all of a sudden, they encounter a drunk driver. And I don't know why it happens this way, but in my experience, most of the time that people are involved in a wreck with a drunk driver, the drunk driver walks away and the other person is either killed or seriously injured. So that's a serious concern for me. I have concerns about other people as well. And before I'm comfortable, because your release date is October of next year. That's your good time parole date. And so you'll be released on that date regardless, but you're asking us to let you go early. And for me to decide to do that, I have to feel comfortable that I'm not going to regret that decision. Not because of what they might say in a paper or anything, but somebody might get killed or hurt. And that's a real concern for me. And so you've got to, help me believe that you're not going to, fall back into the same pattern.
That's
And
fine.
I've heard the things that you've said, and they sound wonderful. Do you know why you have anxiety?
No, ma'am.
So you and your psychiatrist didn't talk about that?
We did, and they kept going back to what may have happened or didn't happen as a child, but I had a loving family. I don't know if it could be genetic, that on my dad's side, there is a lot of alcoholism and addictions. So I don't really know the root of it, but what I do know is, I totally agree with you on, it's not just about me. And yes, I put people's lives at risk, and thank God I've never severely injured anyone. And I know that if I can maintain recovery, then I don't really pose a threat as long as I'm sober. And with my priorities in order now, sobriety's at the top, right under God, obviously, but without sobriety, there is no chance for me. And I know that now. And I never really considered that before, being that I figured I could handle everything on my own. So without sobriety, I may as well be in a grave.
And then just one more question. If you were to be denied today, how would you feel about that?
I would feel that was something that God willed, and I would just continue to work on my sobriety and moving forward in life. I feel like I've been in a rut for so long that these last 5 years, I finally see what life is.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mintel. I appreciate your speaking with me. And that's all I have.
That's fine. Thank you.
We have some speakers. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
I see that there are no further questions, so we will start with Shane O'Hara, who's a sponsor who would like to speak.
You're on mute, sir. You'll unmute your mic.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Harris this morning. I am the Celebrate Recovery Malachi Dad sponsor at Rayburn Prison for the past 13 years. And as these are year-long programs, it gives me an opportunity to get to know the men involved pretty deeply. I make a policy pretty much not to speak on behalf of offenders at their pardon or parole hearings. But in the case of Harris, I wanted to make an exception of that. I've got to know him quite well. He started Celebrate Recovery a few years ago as a participant. And I believe, similar to what he's been trying to express, he was in denial probably up until this present incarceration, the fact that he could not take care of things on his own. But he excelled as a student in Celebrate Recovery to the point that we put him in a facilitator position. And he was quite impressive there. I could see he not only had a desire to get his life together, but to help other men do that as well. And moved, I guess, from a facilitator to a leadership role with us. He's impressed me not only that I've ascertained that he's got a sincere desire to change, but that he's also wants to help other guys make that responsibility. So if Harris is released, I know that he would get great support from his family, both on his parents' side, his wife and 2 children. And fortunate situation, he lives in the Mandeville area, as do a half dozen of our Celebrate Recovery sponsors, the Freeman sponsors and teachers. And we're quite committed to giving him outside support as well. We would be in constant contact with him. And he mentioned running with a wrong circle, perhaps, in years past. But I know that my church, my fellow sponsors, are all committed to mentoring him, giving him accountability, and helping with any reentry resources he may need. Like you, I would be devastated if anyone I spoke for ever got out and hurt another person. But I do believe that Harris is rehabilitated and is not going to be a huge risk to society. In fact, I believe he'd be an asset to the community. And I'm sure he would be able to move back into his family as a provider, as he is a very, very skilled person. And I know that his family and his children have been a huge motivator for him the past few years.
Thank you, Mr. O'Hara. Now,
Yep.
can we please hear from Mr. Hollis McGehee, who is also a sponsor?
You're on mute, Mr. McGee. Thank you.
Good morning. I appreciate this opportunity to speak. Let me just say that I know Harris from seeing him every week for more than a year at Rayburn for several hours at a time. And I think it would be helpful to know that I'm originally from Mississippi, and I'm a retired Mississippi State Court judge. And I'm also a recovering alcoholic with 13 years of sobriety. And so I've had some very heart-to-heart conversations with Harris, and nobody knows what's in someone else's heart. But I feel as comfortable about him and his recovery as any other person I've ever known. And the real answer to get past that problem for anybody that's serious about it is to know that you have no option. You cannot drink. There's no circumstances under which you can. And I've had those conversations with him, and I feel comfortable that he understands that. And that's of utmost importance for a recovering alcoholic.
Thank you. Now, can we please hear from Ms. Natalie Mintel, who is the wife who would like to speak in support?
Morning. Just wanted to say we're here to support him. His family loves him and needs him. His 2 daughters pray for him every night. we're willing to bring him to classes, go to classes with him, whatever he needs, church, small group. Because it's just been a struggle with him out here. And we really see a difference in him now. And he knows what he needs to do in order to succeed in life. And we absolutely need him here. You know, unfortunately, drinking was a norm for him growing up between his dad and his brothers. That's all they did. Started drinking at a young age. And it kind of just became the norm, like drinking a Coke, drinking alcohol. So, he, you know, obviously he needs support groups, and I'm with him 100% on that, whether I have to go with him or not. We all can use counseling and support groups and small groups in church. And everybody here is willing to drive him wherever he needs to go. If he's on an ankle monitor, unable to drive, we're able to help him in that. And his whole family's here to support him. And like I said, his kids need him. They have some surgeries coming up that we could really use him home for. And just we see a big difference in him, and we know it's going to be different this time around when he gets out. We're just here to support him and know that, for y'all to know that we're all here for him and that we believe in him.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is that all of the speakers?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you
can I
very-
ask Ms. Mintel a question?
Sure.
Ms. Mintel, and again, please don't be offended by this, but are you a social drinker?
No, ma'am.
In his close circle of family members, are there people who drink socially?
My mom and dad do on occasion, when it's an occasion, you know, just a glass of wine or whatnot, but they know what Harris is about. They know we don't keep alcohol in the house. They know that we don't have anything to do with alcohol. And they support him 100%. They see the change in him as well.
All right. Thank you. That's all I wanted to ask.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Mintel, is there anything you'd like to say before we vote?
Yes, sir. I just want to thank everybody for being here on my behalf. And I know I accept responsibility for everything I've done. I know I deserve to be in here, and I accept that. And I believe that, you know, my family, they would love to have me home as soon as possible. I understand that it's only 8 months between parole eligibility and my adjusted date, but like I was saying, I don't have any more room in my life for any more regrets. And I assure y'all that if given the opportunity to go home, that y'all won't regret it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mintel. Mr. Mintel, we're now going to vote. It was my case, so I will be the first one to vote. Mr. Mintel, let me simply say that I want to commend you for what you've done this time while you've been in prison. I do believe that you have learned a lot. I do believe that you are on the right track. You've got some tremendous support. You've got Celebrate Recovery is an excellent program, and you've been in that for quite a while, and you're doing quite well. Your sponsor has spoke very highly of you, and I respect everything that he has said. Your wife is supportive of you. You've got a good plan for when you get out. I have some serious concerns, though, and I have to express those. I mean, you know, we're not to look at your past. We're supposed to look at who you are now. But I can't ignore the fact that you've been here before, and you've done it before. And there are some mental health issues. There's some substance abuse issues. Your evaluation that we received showed that you have high needs for substance abuse, high needs for mental health evaluation and treatment. You're a moderate risk to reoffend, law enforcement opposition, which is understandable. I believe you're on the right track. I'm just not in a position today to take a chance on you, but I would prefer and would like to see you get some treatment more treatment while you're there in prison. And the two programs that are on my mind are either the Blue Walters program or the Steve Hoyle program. The Steve Hoyle program will address both your substance abuse as well as your mental health. You need a plan for both. You need a serious plan for both. I encourage you to continue doing what you're doing, and you've been a tremendous prisoner. Warden has spoken very highly of you, but you're in a structured environment. And while there are stresses and pressures and everything in prison, I understand that. You don't have the freedoms that you would have on the outside to fall back right into the same holes. I think you need a little more foundation before I'm willing to vote to let you out. My vote today is going to be to deny your parole, but to encourage you and recommend that you be allowed to go to either Steve Hoyle or the Blue Walters program. Good luck to you, sir. You're on the right track, and within the next year, you will be out. And I hope that you get a little more foundation underneath you. So good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Jackson?
All right. Mr. Mintel, I agree with everything my colleague just said. I think you finally started to do the real work that needs to be done so that you can be successful. I don't understand why it took you so long, but I do see that you've made a tremendous amount of progress. But, you know, I do have concerns. You know, you have a long history of alcohol abuse and, you know, substance abuse that we didn't necessarily know about until our conversation today. And sometimes, you know, poor person really comes out when they have to face disappointment. And if you're disappointed today, you know, how you respond to that will go a long way in deciding how successful you're going to be in the long term. And maybe there's a reason that you're here in this place at this time. Maybe there's some more people that you can reach on the inside before you start reaching people on the outside. But I do have concerns. It does concern me that this is your second fourth offense DWI. And I have concerns about just, you know, public safety. And that's a legitimate concern for me. So today my vote is to deny, but to encourage you to take this as an opportunity to continue serving where you are, helping people who might not be where you are right now, who haven't gotten it yet. And think about how long it took you to get it. And there are people just like you who haven't gotten it yet, but maybe because of your influence in their lives, they might also come to the place that you're in now. So I wish you the best, and you'll be home soon. May not feel like soon, but you will be home soon. And I wish you the best.
That's right. Thank you.
Good morning. I know for you, sir, it's about getting out. But for us, it's about staying out. And I really believe the decision that's rendered today is going to benefit you in the long run in staying out this time. So my vote is to deny as well because of your poor supervision history. And I think you need long-term inpatient substance abuse treatment. And I'm going to write this up as many places as I can, that they move you to a place where you can sit on the front row and really pay attention and address those issues so that you can stay out. Best wishes to, but my vote is denied as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Marabella, you muted.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Mr. Mintel, you have 3 votes to deny your parole. I hope you have listened to what we said in our denial. we all really believe you are on the right track, and you're headed for a successful life. You just need, we believe, a little more foundation for you. So we encourage you to try to get into some of these programs. We'll do everything we can do on our end to get you there. And as Ms. Wise said, you're going to be out soon. So I hope you take advantage of this, and hope we never see you again. Our hope is to keep you out, not simply to get you out. So good luck to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Marabella, I believe we're ready to close out at DCI.
What a scary situation, right? He gets into 2 head-on collisions while DUI'd up, 2 felony fourth offenses, 7 DUI arrests. Somehow he gets out on parole after just serving a few years on his sentence, and he gets revoked. I don't know why it says revoked 2016 and 2017. I don't quite understand what that means. I don't think he could have gotten revoked twice. That would be crazy, right? But it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think it'd surprise you either. And his full term date is 2036, but his parole date is 2022. And so he got out within a year of that hearing date. And as far as I know, the information that Richard has shared, he's still out. So, gosh, I hope not to see him again. And we'll go over the information of his arrest, and also he's a simple escape, which is kind of funny, actually, what happened in his simple escape. We'll get into that. But it's interesting. He had that person talk on his behalf. Was he a sober, like a recovery person? I don't get it. He's like, I've never done this, and if something were to happen, and I still don't get why he would talk on his behalf. It's like the dude has 1 more year of prison left. Why would you risk everything for 12 months more freedom to risk having that responsibility over your shoulder? I mean, it is saying a lot coming from someone who's like a recovery expert, but still, I couldn't imagine. You would think as a recovery expert, you would know enough you would know enough to know that you don't know enough, kind of thing, And hey, I'm glad Mr. Marabella, out of all people, took this case. And the guy kind of had, I can't get the lighting right, man. The guy kind of had, a good interview in the sense of him seeming to just own up to not to the addiction, but where it wasn't good and or wasn't impressive or seemed lacking is that it seemed that he had no insight. Imagine spending all these years in prison and on your parole hearing to have no insight. Well, why do you drink? I don't know. Well, didn't you have a therapist? Yeah, we thought maybe it was childhood things, but I don't know. I had a good upbringing, and maybe he actually doesn't know. That's possible. And he just wasn't going to be dishonest, but also it's hard to understand that. He said maybe it's genetics. Well, that could be an answer. But I guess the victims in this case is, besides the 2 people he crashed into, is his daughters, and that's just sad, and all the family members, and it's got to be just. But let's go over his documents, right? Thank you, Richard, again. So the defendant was charged with a bill of information on 2nd, 4th offense, driving while intoxicated. And that's the thing what I don't understand. Does that mean he has 8? Because it said he has 7 DUI arrests, but I don't know. Sometimes things don't need to make sense, right? And the defendant pled not guilty and had a jury trial. How do you have a jury trial? You've got to be like, can you explain to me how you expected to be found innocent with a jury trial? And he was found guilty as charged on both counts. The defendant filed a motion for a new trial, and a motion for post-verdict judgment acquittal, and a motion in arrest of judgment, all of which were denied. For the second fourth defense, DWI conviction, the defendant was sentenced to 20 years at hard labor. For the simple escape conviction, the defendant was sentenced to 1 year at hard labor. The sentences were to run consecutively. The defendant filed a motion to reconsider sentence, which was denied. The defendant now appeals assertion. So we'll go over the instant case, but isn't it quite interesting that he goes to trial and gets a 20-year sentence? I wonder what if they had any deals on the table and what they were. Facts. I mean, 20 years, you might say, for Louisiana is quite a lot. We have seen people who have gotten 8 DUIs and have gotten less time. We have seen people who have taken a life and have gotten 20 years. So, I do think that they threw the book at him because he went to trial, but I'd really have to check the legislation to know for sure. And I don't know, you want me to do that? But on April 18, 2007, at about 9:45 p.m., the defendant was driving westbound on U.S. Highway 190. The defendant veered from his lane of traffic into the opposite lane of incoming traffic, crashed head-on into a vehicle being driven by Michael. Moments later, Officer Charlene with the Mandeville Police Department arrived at the accident scene. At trial, Officer Frost described the defendant as wobbly and woozy. She further stated the defendant was unable to stand up well. He was unable to answer her questions in a coherent manner. His breath smelled of alcohol, and it was obvious that he was impaired. Officer David Sharp of the Mandeville Police Department, who was called to the accident scene. What? Okay, I don't know. Officer Sharp asked the defendant if he had anything to drink. I feel like that was redundant how they did that. The defendant told Officer Sharp that he had not. Officer Sharp testified at trial that the defendant had slurred speech, poor balance, and bloodshot eyes. This is a different police officer. Got it. He further stated that the defendant had a strong odor of alcohol coming from both his breath and body. Officer Sharp conducted a field sobriety test on the defendant, which he failed. The defendant was placed under arrest for DWI, Mirandized, handcuffed, and placed in the back of Officer Sharp's police unit. At this point, Officer Sharp asked the defendant how much he had to drink. The defendant responded he drank 6 or 7 beers. If you're telling the police it's 6 or 7, imagine how much it really was. Officer Sharp left his police unit with the defendant in his back seat and turned to the accident scene to inventory the defendant's vehicle. He found an open can of beer, 2 unopened cans of beer, and a handmade aluminum foil pipe in the defendant's vehicle. When Officer Sharp returned to his police unit, he discovered the defendant had gotten out and fled. And this is the part that I thought was funny. And that's because an anonymous tip came in. I wonder if it was his mother. And the defendant was found at his mother's house with his handcuffs still on. And I can't help but believe that it was his mom that turned him in, because I'm not aware of her getting any charges. Because you can't exactly say, "Mom, I got handcuffs on. My car is nowhere to be." But it's just there's nothing to see here. What you got in the oven? Can you imagine? How did he? I just want to know, how did he get out of the back seat and escape, and actually successfully escape with handcuffs on and make it home? Oh man, he must have woken up with the biggest hangover of his life, bruised from an accident, and with handcuffs on. If that's not rock bottom, but then to think he got out early on parole and was revoked. I mean, how many times can this guy hit rock bottom? That's crazy to think. It's scary. I mean, Louisiana. Now this goes into his plea. What is he appealing on? In order for guilty pleas to be used as basis for actual imprisonment, enhancement, actual imprisonment. Wait a minute. Assignment of error. In the assignment of error, the defendant argues the trial court erred in denying his motion to squash. Specifically, the defendant contends that the transcript or proceeding of a prior DWI conviction does not indicate that he pled guilty. So it seems he didn't want the jury to know of prior DWIs. Prior to a trial hearing was held, the defendant's motion to squash a DWI predicate offense, namely a guilty plea on February 22nd, 2001, in the 22nd Judicial District. According to the defendant, and reading the transcript on February 22nd, 2001 hearing does not indicate that he actually pleaded guilty. In order for a guilty plea, how much money, I wonder, he spent on his defense? His poor wife. It's like, oh man, it's hard to understand addiction. It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't. In order for guilty plea to be used on a basis of actual imprisonment, enhancement of actual imprisonment. But the difference is, like what Miss Jackson said so elegantly, is she said, I don't care if you sit in your room and you drink yourself to sclerosis, if you just drink yourself into the grave, but get into a car and endanger everyone else. And like she said, it's always the person who gets in, because when you're intoxicated, you don't tense up, your muscles don't tense up, and you're more agile. I don't know. Is there anything worth reviewing here? They bring up, when it's not clear under which DUI provision defendant sentence, such determination unnecessary. Scenario 12-person jury was not proper. Defendant was sentenced then with or without hard labor. The verdict in this incident matter was unanimous. No kidding. What chances did he think he was going to get? He needed Larry, the DUI guy, for this one, right? I should ask Larry, do you think you could have gotten this guy out of prison, or would you have told him to take the deal? I can't imagine. And this is an interesting thing too. I wonder what attorney would want to actually get someone like this out of prison. I know everyone has the right to counsel, but man, could you have that on your conscience? And then the last point I think I want to make is, I wish the board took the same approach that they did in this case as they did I wish they would take the same approach with people who harm children. It was like, in this situation, they're like, it's to have you get out, and the chances that you're going to harm someone else. And they're like, it's not that I want it, it's not about it being, on the news or anything, but it's, and, statistically speaking, why wouldn't they take the same approach with people who harm children? You say, I just can't take the chance. But it's not that way. The trial court then stated, how does someone get this many DWIs and they're still driving? What's going to happen when you kill somebody? Who are they going to look to? Are they going to look to Mr. Farmer? Are they going to look to Mr. Obur? Are they going to look to me for not giving you an appropriate sentence? Because something has to happen that you are not able to make these controls yourself. The defendant contends that the above language by the trial court was an improper reason for imposing a 20-year sentence. Good luck with that, bro. According to the defendant, no one should be sentenced to 20 years imprisonment to protect the sentencing judge from public future approbation. How about not protect him? How about just he wants to protect others? It's interesting, though, that that's part of his appeal, right? We find nothing improper in the trial court's reason for sentencing. To the contrary, the trial court provided a considered, thoughtful discussion of the problems society faces with DWI recidivism and the reasons for the sentence it was imposing. In crafting a sentence, the trial court discussed mitigating and aggravating circumstances and specifically noted it considers the provisions. The maximum sentence pursuant is 30 years in prison. Oh, here we go. We didn't have to look up the legislation. So the maximum was 30 and he gave him 20. Considering the trial court's careful analysis of the circumstances, the defendant's repeated criminal behavior, and the fact that the instant DWI violation resulted in a head-on collision with an innocent victim, we find no abuse of discretion of the trial court. The sentence is not grossly disproportionate, and the severity of the offense therefore is not unconstitutionally excessive. And to think that he had gotten paroled just really a few years after this sentence, only to get revoked. So a lot of it still, to me, seems to be a lot of double talk from the even sentencing perspective, because it's not really a 20-year sentence, man. I mean, he got sentenced in 2007 and revoked in 2016, so he served 9 years. The more that I see these cases, the less I want to drive in New Orleans. But as we looked at one of the last hearings, New Orleans is not in the top 10 of DUIs. It's actually on the, I think it's on rated like 16 or something. So you should look up the other states. There are many more dangerous states than Louisiana. With that, I'll let you.
In 1968, classified as a third felony offender. Offense, driving while intoxicated, third offense. Sentencing date, January 22nd, 2021. Sentenced to 5 years hard labor. Parole date is September 22nd, 2021. Good time is July 8th, 2022. Full term is March 22nd, 2029. Is this information correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Wise. Oh, Mr. Roche.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Teresa. Good morning. How you doing, Ms. Crawford?
Doing well, thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Crawford, I'm gonna put some information into the record, and then we're gonna have a conversation, okay?
Yes, sir.
So sit back, relax, and this is gonna be harmless,
Yes,
okay?
sir. Yes, sir.
Ms. Crawford, you're currently 52 years old, and you're a third felony offender, and you've been arrested at least 4 times for DWI. Is that correct?
Yes.
And 2 of those offenses were less than 2 months apart.
Yes.
And those 2 were processed as one offense on March 6, 2013. So actually, you're a 4th felony offender, and you've had convictions for 4 DWIs. Am I correct?
Yes.
And along with those 4 arrests for DWIs, you've had 3 arrests for drug, and you've been convicted all 3 times. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
So you have a total of 7 arrests, either for alcohol or drugs.
Yes, sir. Pain pills. Yes, sir.
So tell me, what have you done in the last, you've been incarcerated since March of 19. So the last 2.5 years, what have you done to help you solve your problems with drugs and alcohol?
Yes, sir. Prior to my arrest for the DUI, the last one, I was on Suboxone, and I was doing Celebrate Recovery, and I did my probation time that was for the possession of pain pills. I did my probation time and got off early and was doing really well, spending time with the family and stuff. But, I guess I should have gotten off the Suboxone sooner, and because I got caught up in some mess. The from my mind is right, and if I can get out, then of course I would go back to Celebrate Recovery and do my probation time like I'm supposed to. I took a parenting class here. Although my kids are grown.
Now, Miss Patricia, you have one thing going for you. You've been on supervision on 3 different occasions, and you finished all of those satisfactory.
Yes, sir.
So look like you found your way. In some way, you lost it again.
Yes,
because
sir.
you completed all your supervision satisfactory.
Yes, sir.
And we don't see that often in cases like this. People end up getting revoked. But you finished all yours. The legal community, in your case, had no comment.
Yeah.
Which is also a rare occasion where the judge, DA's office, and law enforcement don't comment. You have a low risk assessment, and I see where you've only earned 75 days of good time. So tell me about the program that you took.
Pardon? What did you say?
Tell me about the program that you earned the 75 hours for.
Yes, sir.
5 days.
Yeah, it was parenting. Of course, my children are grown, but I applied it to, to how to handle my grandchildren and stress and just things like that.
Okay. Now, Ms. Crawford, why haven't you completed more programs?
I haven't been able to get in classes.
Well,
COVID.
I'm going to take care of that today.
Yes, sir.
Because you need a long-term substance abuse program. And you need to get as much knowledge and information about your problem so next time you'll be completely successful.
Yes, sir.
How about your disciplinary issues? Have you had any disciplinary write-ups since 2019?
I had one. No, actually, that was resolved. No write-ups.
Okay, so you had a write-up and it was dismissed.
Yes.
Okay, what was the write-up for?
It was for having an electric cigarette that was dismantled.
Okay. You gotta watch your P's and Q's.
Yes, sir. It was dumb. Yes, sir.
Do you have a job at the facility?
No, sir. I'm disabled. At the time that
What is your disability?
severe arthritis and cartilage loss and a spine unalignment. It's several things that I.
You're on SSI?
Yes, I was. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, did you have a job before you were incarcerated?
No, I've been disabled since a horseback accident in '97.
Okay. Now, is the SSI enough to support you with a place to live, place to eat, get your clothes and things like that?
Well, my family, my children will help me.
Okay. Tell me your transition plan. What do you plan to work, and you're not going to work your disability. Where are you going to live?
With my son, my 21-year-old son. My kids are grown now, so he's agreed to I can stay with them, and help with the babies and help them with their rent and utilities and be grandma.
Okay. And yeah, and I know how grandmas are. I have 7 grandchildren.
Yes, sir.
So tell me, you're gonna live with your 21-year-old son. Has your son ever had any trouble with law enforcement?
No, he's a straight arrow.
And that's what you need now. A
So
straight
that's
Okay,
what
the most important question of the day. Give me a detailed sobriety plan on how you're going to stay away from alcohol, drugs, and pills.
yes, sir. Mind over matter for the first off. My son is, and my children will be my support system. They have Celebrate Recovery right down the road. I'm gonna give up my driving privileges, of course. So stay at home and be grandma. You know, go report to my probation and around my family. There's no chance for me to be involved with anything like that, and no need for me to be involved for anything of that nature.
Okay, what are your triggers? What triggers the use of alcohol and drugs?
Yes, sir. Well, I guess money was a trigger, but since 2016, when I got the possession charge for the pain pills, that I haven't been I haven't been in that life anymore. I was taking the Suboxone and doing what I was supposed to do and going to Celebrate Recovery and staying away from folks. But the DUI came, I got pulled over, not for erratic driving or anything like that. Was the light was out, I'd hit a deer, and they brought me in for a DUI for Suboxone. But it's my fault. I should have been off of it a couple of years ago. That was my fault.
Now, Ms. Crawford, you said money. Was it the lack of money or you had extra money? And
Probably the lack of it. Yes, sir.
well, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to suggest today, and I'm only one vote. I'm going to suggest that you attend a long-term DOC-approved substance abuse program to go along with that. Celebrate Recovery when you get out.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to give you the option to go to NAAR Celebrate Recovery at least 3 times a week.
Yes, sir.
The one thing that you have going for you, or the couple of things you have going for you, you have no opposition, and you have completed 3 periods of supervision satisfactorily.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to count on you to do that again.
I will.
Hopefully, the extra substance abuse treatment will aid you in keeping clean, and basically, this is the last time you will be before a panel of this kind, okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wise, that completes my interview.
Yes, sir. Mr. Marabella has his hand up. Mr. Marabella, anything you'd like to say?
I do have a couple of questions. Ms. Crawford, when did you become addicted to pain pills?
After a horse accident in 97.
And when was that, ma'am?
1997.
1997?
Yes, sir.
How did you get to a Suboxone clinic?
After my last arrest for pain pills, whenever I got out, I said,
There was, let me stop you. Was that an arrest for the DWI or was that arrest for the possession?
That was a possession. Yes.
Okay,
Sir.
go ahead.
When I said I was done with pain pills, I don't care how bad I'm hurting, I'm done with pain pills. Okay. So a lady told me about the Suboxone clinic. So I went to, when I got out, I went to my probation, of course, but went to a Suboxone clinic. My probation officer was good with that, yeah. And had counseling, of course, and Celebrate Recovery. And that's how I got to the Suboxone.
And when was that approximately? What year?
That was 2017, I think.
All
In
right. Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 2017 in May.
All of your previous DWIs ranging back to 2011, was that alcohol related, drug related, or both?
Pain pills.
Okay. Do you drink?
No, not anything.
Well, have you ever drank?
When I was a teenager, we drank a lot, but I haven't ever been a drinker.
So all of your DWIs have been pain pill related.
Except for the last one, and that was for the Suboxone. But
well, I understand. I poor question. Not alcohol, but controlled dangerous substances has been the reason.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever been in an accident?
No. I mean, not under influence, if that's what you're asking.
Yes. Mr. Roche pointed out that when you're on probation, you do well. Why is that? Can you account for that?
Because I don't want to go to jail.
Well, I mean, that's a consequence, obviously, but you know, we see a lot of people that don't want to go to jail, but they continue to do the things they shouldn't do.
Yes. Well,
how are you able to control? Well, let me stop and ask you this. Are you able to control your problem, or do you just not get in a car?
If you're talking about the pain pills, I was out of control on the pain pills. But the last DUI, I'm sorry, my mouth is really dry. My last DUI was just because I drove on the Suboxone. I wasn't impaired, but at the end of the day, I was still under the influence, is what they said. It's how they read it to me. So I had to, take that charge. And I wasn't impaired. I passed the test, the eye test and things like that.
But you pled guilty to a DWI.
Yes, sir, because they threatened me, with 10 years, and but no, not DWI, DUI.
Well, I hear you.
Yes.
Driving under the influence.
Yes, sir. At the end of the day, even though I was not impaired, I was still under the influence.
Aside from going to a Suboxone clinic, have you ever gone to NA meetings or AA meetings or any other support group?
They have a Celebrate Recovery in my town and a church with the church group. Yes.
Well, tell me about your Celebrate Recovery.
It was every Wednesday night, and my daughter, who is 18 now, but she insisted to go with me, and we would,
how long did you go?
The whole time I was on probation. The whole time I've been on probation.
So when you have structure, you're fine.
Yes, sir.
Now, while you were on probation, what were you taking? Were you on the Suboxone?
Yes, with my my probation officer's consent. Yeah.
Okay. So how was it that you were discharged from the Suboxone clinic?
I wasn't discharged from the Suboxone clinic. When I got arrested for the driving under the influence of Suboxone, I've been in jail ever since. So I wasn't discharged from that.
So you had a prescription for your Suboxone?
Yes, sir. But I think they went by my past, which I'm not mad because I did some bad driving in my past, but that night I wasn't impaired, and they know it. But I didn't want to go to a trial and then give me 10 years.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Yes, sir.
anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
I think I pretty much, said everything that, that I have something I was gonna read, but I think I answered most everything I was gonna read to you. I mean, there's nothing else that I can, read right now.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, be starting off with Mr. Alvin Roche.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Patricia, I really spent a lot of time with you. We have a good supervision history. We have no opposition from law enforcement community. You have a problem, and you went to celebrate recovery, and I think you need just a little bit more help. So I'm going to conditionally grant your release upon the completion of a long-term DOC substance abuse program. Get into that substance abuse program, pay attention, like one of my colleagues said, sit on the first row and soak it all in. Because you're gonna need that information when you're released.
Yes, sir.
After release, I want you to have a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. I want you to have random drug screens to keep you honest.
Yes, sir.
Your parole officer may call you at 8 o'clock in the morning, but they'll be in the office at 10 a.m. and give you a drug screen.
Yes, sir.
And I want you to attend at least 3 Celebrate Recovery meetings a week. If you can get there every day, that's fine. But it will be mandatory that you attend at least 3 meetings a week. Good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Marabella.
Ms. Crawford, I appreciate the conversation that we've had. I have some real concerns about your understanding of what your issues are and what your problems are. I also have a personal issue. I was a drug court judge for 14 years. I am very skeptical of Suboxone clinics. If run properly, they're wonderful. If mismanaged or inappropriately diagnosed, they are horrible. Okay?
Yes.
You tell me you had a prescription, I assume you did, but you said you stopped at one point and you started back up. I'm not sure what all of that means.
No.
Although I'm looking at the police report, and though you say you passed the field sobriety test, they say you performed poorly. And I do understand that because you had a history of prior DWIs, it was dangerous for you to run the risk of going to trial on a 4th offense, ending up going to jail for a long time. So I understand all of those things. But according to the police report, you were impaired. You say you were not impaired, but you were. And it's one thing to be on medication to assist you with your addiction, but it's another thing to overdo that or to abuse that and get in an automobile and drive it. You were very fortunate in your past driving under the influence charges. You've never been in a wreck and you've never killed anyone, because you could find yourself sitting in prison for a long time as a result of a vehicular homicide or a negligent homicide. So there's real danger there.
Yes, sir.
I do believe that you need some significant education. I agree with Mr. Roche. My vote is going to be to grant conditionally upon your completing a long-term DOC substance abuse treatment. And I want you to listen to who you are and listen when they talk about what your addictions are and how you may be able to stop those things. Celebrate Recovery is a wonderful source to go to, but you need to make sure that you've got something each and every time. You do have a good record on probation, but I assume it's because you haven't had the need to get in a car. My biggest concern with people who drive under the influence of anything, drugs or alcohol, is that they mean well. But sometimes when they're under the influence, they have no inhibitions and they have no good judgment. And they get behind the wheel for whatever reason, and they end up hurting someone. I know you would never intend to do that, but there is a consequence of your addiction that might cause that. So I think it's clearly important that, as Mr. Roche pointed out, sit on the front row, listen to absorb the information that they're teaching you to make sure you don't find yourself in this position again. So it would be my vote to grant conditionally under the same conditions as outlined by Mr. Roche.
Thank you.
You know, I've looked over your case back and forth, and I've been steady reading on your case some more, going over it. I'm gonna be honest with you, scare me. You just got sentenced not just very long ago, and it's been DWIs and drugs. You're 52 years old. You live in Gina, Louisiana. It ain't like you just walk out there everywhere you want to get and just go do things. Everybody knows everybody. They know when you get in a car, probably, and you take off down the road. And where's some of your family at today that would speak for you?
My son, he works really hard, and I couldn't afford for him to take off work to do this. I just said he can't afford it. He has a house full of people. Well, a house full of his wife, his son, my daughter, and his wife, and his baby, my grandbaby. So he couldn't afford to take off work to do this.
What about your sisters? Any other family? You have any other family?
I have a sister that lives in Hebert, Louisiana, and I'll probably be. She's a straight arrow also. So if I'm not with my son, then I'll be with her.
You know, I'm going to agree with Mr. Rosham. I want you to go to a long term, if it has to be 9 months, 10 months, I don't care what it is.
Yes, sir.
Long term substance abuse program.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to agree with my colleagues today. I'll be voting the same. I'm going to vote to grant on the same conditions. Thank you very much. That concludes our hearings today. At let me see what the time is. 11 a.m. Thank you very much.
Man, okay, so this hearing was interesting, almost like an anomaly to me. The interesting idea that she's been on, I guess, supervision 3 times and never gets revoked, but yet she has the 4th offense, DUI. And I just wonder, like, kind of like what the board said. They said, well, I think that maybe you just don't get in trouble because you manage to stay out of a car. You just don't need to go anywhere, which is, maybe that's possible. It's strange, but at the beginning I was listening to the hearing and I was like, I wonder if like she actually is being honest about this. I wonder if maybe she didn't get that 4th DUI. She's on a Suboxone. Maybe she was, some people can handle their stuff and kind of act sober. And maybe she told the police officer that she's on it and then he used her words against her. But I'm glad Mr. Marabella brought it up, the actual information of that case, and they said, no, you failed your test miserably. It's it is hard to understand why law enforcement's not opposed. No one's opposed to her early release, which is just like, I'm not sure how many times we have ever heard that law enforcement was not opposed. Here you have a 4th DUI felony offender, and she's done it more than that, as they pointed out. And she has more arrests on her record. Richard pointed out she had possession with intent to distribute. She had the DUI arrest. I guess maybe she pled down with just possession and not intent to distribute. But it's kind of interesting what she got, a 10-year sentence, but she only has to serve 2 years, I think. So she is out by now, and she hasn't done anything yet to get in trouble. So that's good. But it's let's be real. After seeing all of these hearings today, it is it is not encouraging, I think, to say the least. The idea that the system doesn't seem really to have guardrails in place to protect us, not just drivers. I mean, kids playing, bicycling. As many of you know, I used to ride motorcycles for years. I've been in 2 accidents. I've been but it's none from anyone, drinking. Just I had the real bad one was a woman taking a left-hand turn at an intersection right in front of me, in broad daylight. But that's pretty common for motorcycle accidents. I don't know what's the answers. I would say if you have a 4th DUI, you need to lose your license permanently. And they say, and it's not like she's right. Does she go into work, or she has a plan where she doesn't need a license? And then you'll say, well, that doesn't do anything. People will still get in a car. So then you got to wear scram bracelets. But we have seen where people who have worn scram bracelets have gone in cars because they decide to switch from alcohol to something else. And so there really is no way to stop someone. So it's either you put them in prison forever, which I get you can't do. But I don't have faith in the programs. It's just a disaster. And who's to take her word for it that her son is a straight arrow? It's like, does a parole officer check in on that? They might. It doesn't give me hopes, but as of now, she is still out. So let's keep hoping for the best. And we've been here quite some time. So I thank you for that. With that, I'll let you go.